Hello everyone, and welcome to the channel. Today's video is all about the endocrine system. Did you know that the pituitary gland, one of the most important endocrine organs, is roughly the shape and size of a pea? For such a small size, this organ, which you will see, releases many very important hormones that control the function of other endocrine organs. So what is the job of the endocrine system? Pause the video and brainstorm some ideas. The endocrine system is made up of several glands that produce and secrete hormones in the bloodstream. Hormones are chemical messengers that travel through the blood and regulate various physiological processes, such as growth and development, metabolism, and reproductive processes. To give you an analogy, picture the endocrine system is like a postal office. The hormones are the mail, the blood vessels are the city roads, and the target organs are the mailing addresses. The post office, like an endocrine organ, distributes the letters throughout the city using the city roads until eventually they reach their destinations and information is received, like at a target cell. There are about 10 important endocrine organs in the body. Pause the video and name a few. In this video, I will go over a few of the really important ones. The hypothalamus in the brain, the pituitary gland at the base of the brain, attached to the hypothalamus, the thyroid gland in the base of the neck, the adrenal glands in the tops of each kidney, the pancreas just below the stomach, and the ovaries and testes in the gonads. Take a minute to pause the video here and try to name one hormone that is released from each of these organs. So let's go over them by starting at the top and working our way down. The hypothalamus is a part of the diencephalon, which is a central part of the brain beneath the large cerebrum. It is important for the endocrine system because it has a very close and complex relationship with the pituitary gland that hangs just below it. The pituitary gland consists of two parts, the anterior lobe and the posterior lobe. The hypothalamus is responsible for releasing hormones down into the pituitary gland. It has specialized neurons which secrete a type of hormone called trophic hormones. Trophic hormones are hormones that target other endocrine cells. The hypothalamus also produces two hormones called ADH and oxytocin that are then secreted by the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland. ADH, which stands for antidiuretic hormone, regulates the water-saving ability of the kidneys. Oxytocin is a hormone that regulates reproductive systems, such as lactation or giving birth. Some of the important hormones that are released from the hypothalamus include TRH, thyrotropin-releasing hormone, CRH, corticotropin-releasing hormone, GHRH, growth hormone-releasing hormone, and GnRH, gonadotropin-releasing hormone. The reason they are called releasing hormones is because they tell the anterior pituitary gland to release hormones that stimulate other endocrine organs. Right below the hypothalamus is the pituitary gland. This organ is extremely important because, among other functions, like I mentioned, it regulates many other endocrine organs. Each lobe is responsible for releasing different hormones. The posterior lobe releases oxytocin and ADH produced from the hypothalamus, like we just mentioned a second ago. The anterior lobe, however, produces and secretes a variety of major hormones. This includes TSH, thyroid-stimulating hormone, ACTH, adrenocorticotropin hormone, GH, growth hormone, FSH, follicle-stimulating hormone, and LH, luteinizing hormone. TSH stimulates the thyroid gland to perform its functions. ACTH stimulates the adrenal glands to perform their functions. FSH and LH from the pituitary gland stimulates the gonads to release sex hormones. Lastly, growth hormone is special because it stimulates growth and development in all areas of the body. An interesting thing about growth hormone is that its production is affected in rare cases when people develop a tumor on the pituitary gland. Depending on whether the individual has stopped growing or not, they can develop incredible disorders due to the overproduction of growth hormone from cancerous cells. If a tumor develops before an individual stops growing, gigantism can occur, where our long bones continue to lengthen before our bones fuse. If this tumor occurs after the individual has stopped growing, acromegaly can occur, where the individual experiences extra growth in cartilaginous areas of the body, such as the face and hands. And maybe you recognize some of these individuals. On the left is Robert Wadlow, who had gigantism and was the tallest man alive at 8 feet and 11 inches tall. On the right is Andre the Giant, who had acromegaly. Look at the size of him. Next is the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland is located at the top of the trachea and is responsible for release of hormones called thyroid hormone and calcitonin. Thyroid hormone regulates many functions such as metabolism, muscle function, and brain development. Calcitonin regulates blood calcium levels by decreasing them. Within the thyroid glands are the parathyroid glands, which release PTH or parathyroid hormone, which does the opposite of calcitonin in blood calcium homeostasis. The adrenal glands are located above each kidney. They have an inner medulla surrounded by an outer cortex. The cortex is responsible for release of aldosterone, cortisol, and androgens. The medulla is responsible for release of epinephrine and norepinephrine. Aldosterone, similar to ADH, regulates the salt-saving ability of the kidneys. Cortisol is a stress hormone that regulates metabolic processes. Androgens are a class of sex hormones that regulate various reproductive functions. Epinephrine and norepinephrine play a role in the body's fight or flight response by regulating heart rate and blood vessel diameter. Next, the pancreas is located just below the stomach and is responsible for release of two hormones that are important for our metabolism, called insulin and glucagon. Glucagon is responsible for increasing blood glucose levels, and insulin is responsible for decreasing blood glucose levels. If you'd like to know more about the pancreas, check out my last video where I talked about the digestive system and its accessory organs. Lastly, the ovaries and testes, located in the gonadal region, are responsible for release of sex hormones such as testosterone and estrogen that are very important for sexual development and sexual functions. So let's go over a full body example. Let's say we have high blood calcium levels and need to signal stimulation of the thyroid gland to produce calcitonin. What happens first is the hypothalamus will release thyrotropin-releasing hormone onto the anterior pituitary gland, which will then release thyroid-stimulating hormone to stimulate the thyroid gland to release more calcitonin. Then finally, calcitonin will signal to the bones to resorb more calcium from the blood, thus lowering the blood calcium levels back to homeostasis. So that is a general summary of some of the major endocrine organs and their functions. Let's do a short recap to review some of the information. Answer the questions as they pop up on the screen. Lastly, we have a tricky question of the day. Scenario: Ella has a condition where her hypothalamus overproduces GnRH. What might occur as a result of this? If you said something along the lines of, there would be a high amount of sex hormone production, that would be correct. Remember the pathway of signaling we talked about before. GnRH, or gonadotropin-releasing hormone, will tell the pituitary to release FSH and LH, which will then tell the ovaries or testes to produce more sex hormones. So if there is overproduction of GnRH, it will also result in overproduction in the gonads. And that is the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Hopefully it was helpful. Enjoy your studies.